Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Man in America. I'm your host, Seth Holhouse, coming to you live from the beautiful state of Ohio. So the CCP's COVID-0 policy is driving people to rioting, starvation, even suicide, with 28 million people under extreme lockdown in Shanghai. Why would the CCP be doing this to their own citizens? The answers are shocking. And look, folks, if you're not following me online yet, make sure you head over to Telegram or Truth Social and find me as Man in America. That's where I'm the most active. It's where I highly, highly recommend you look for me. Also, if you want to find other places to find me, you can go to the description below the video where you can find me. I've got all my links to my podcast, the other social media sites in there as well. So I highly recommend you look between those two places. Okay, and also, Man in America and today's show is literally brought to you by Rise TV. So Rise TV is the reason I can do Man in America full time. With big tech censorship, the demonetization, they've made it really tough for people like me with a mission to tell you the truth. And that's why we built Rise TV. Honestly, folks, right now we're at war, and I'm sure you see that now as well. And it's an information war. And Man in America is how I'm fighting. So over on Rise TV, we have a massive content library. If you want to join the Q&A at the end of every show, it's a great place to go because we have a beautiful conversation with patriots. You ask your questions, you hang out, you connect with people. It's just wonderful. So if you want to join us, there's a link for a free trial in the description below the video. So come try it out. I think you'll end up staying. And as you'll see in today's show, I believe we have some very shaky times ahead of us. We're already there. And a lot of you are looking for ways to protect your wealth. I've always been one to recommend physical gold and silver, especially now that Putin has backed his ruble with gold and we're seeing insane hyperinflation with the dollar. I believe that gold and silver are one of the safest assets to get through the turbulent times ahead. And for this, I'm confident recommending Noble Gold. You can buy gold and silver directly, have them ship it straight to you, or you can do an IRA transfer. So that's what Noble Gold specializes in, which they allow you to transfer your money from an IRA into physical gold and silver with zero taxes and penalties. So if you want to learn more about this, open a new tab right now and go to goldwithseth, that's me.com, or you can call 877-646-5347 to speak to a real human being in the United States of America. Again, that's 877-646-5347. So folks, as you know, a lot of my shows point back to China. I believe that so much of what we're seeing happening around the world goes straight back to what's happening in China, specifically with the CCP. And right now, there are some insane, it's almost hard to describe what's happening in China right now. If you thought Australia was bad, if you thought that Italy was bad, or any regions around the world with how they handled the COVID lockdowns or with the passports for the jab, nothing compares what's happening in China. And I'm going to show you a lot of videos today. I've prepared a lot of different information for you. I'm going to warn you ahead of time. Some of these videos are hard to watch. I will warn you ahead of each video if I think it's a little more sensitive. I'm just giving you the viewer discretion advised warning ahead of time because this is some tough stuff to watch. But honestly, I think now is not the time for us to try to keep our heads in the sand. I think that we have to be able to look at what's happening in the world because as you saw with what happened in Wuhan at the beginning of the pandemic, that became the template for what was happening around the world. And while I think that there's something different happening now versus what was happening in Wuhan, and I'll go into that later in the show, I do think that we have to keep paying attention to what's happening over there. I also have some other really, really important China news that broke within this past week that I'm going to share with you after we get through the lockdown stuff. And I've got a few fun things at the end of the show as well before we go on to the Q&A. And it's really more of a Q&A. It's a community discussion where we sit and chat and hang out together. So let me go ahead and start by opening up a web page for you. So there's probably two of the main websites I go to for China information. One is the Epoch Times, which is probably your go-to source for China information as well. But the other one is Vision Times. I know some of the folks that work there from my past in the media. It's an excellent, excellent source for what's happening in China and really even broader than that. So it's just visiontimes.com. I recommend it. And you'll see I source a lot of my information, especially China information, from Vision Times. So let me go and pull this up for you and show you. So now, again, as I told you, this is going to be a tough tough episode to get through because some of this stuff is just it's just hard to process that this is happening. But you have to understand who our enemies are. And there's a lot of people that are saying, oh, wait, maybe she is a white hat and she's working with Putin and Trump to bring down the cabal. And let's just be clear. Everything I'm showing you today, everything that's happening in China with their COVID policy ties to Xi Jinping. So don't make any mistake about that. It'd be very clear about who the CCP is. And the CCP is pure evil. Now, the people of China, it's another disclaimer, the Chinese people are beautiful people. They've been living under communist tyranny for almost a century. And the culture of China is one of the most amazing cultures that ever came to this beautiful planet of Earth. But when I talk about what's happening in China, I'm not talking about, if I'm demonizing it, it's the CCP I'm talking about, not the people of China that have been tortured and murdered, and their blood has been spilled across the fields and the streets of the beautiful land of China under the hand of the CCP. So I want to make that very clear. So this first article I'm pulling up here again, this is from Vision Times. If you want to look at Vision Times, it's visiontimes.com. So public uproar in Shanghai as authorities separate children from parents in their, quote, zero COVID protocols. So just to explain a little bit, so China has what they call a zero COVID protocol. Zero COVID meaning no cases. So it's an extreme form of handling the virus or whatever it is that's spreading there. And I'm going to get into that in a little bit because I think it's something different that's happening there. But the overall idea is that they have to take whatever measures are necessary to ensure that there are zero cases in China. It's insane. Imagine trying to eliminate the flu from America. That's about what they're trying to do here. But it's under the guise of zero COVID that they're rolling out these policies, these draconian police state that you'll see. So to the article here, and this is, so the picture I'm showing you right there is, these are the hazmat suit. These are people you see, they're workers and volunteers. Yeah, I'm sure they're volunteering. They're probably being forced into this. But these are the folks that you see rounding people up, wandering around, testing people. These are they almost look like the foot soldiers of Darth Vader. They look like stormtroopers. It's really creepy. So as the article continues, so China's battle against COVID-19 shows no signs of stopping. The financial hub of Shanghai continues to battle the worst outbreak it has seen, with over 10,000 positive cases reported each day since April 4th. So here's a quick side note for you, is that as we know, the PCR test is not a reliable test. And I think that even though China is using their own variations of testing, how easy would it be, as we saw with the PCR test, for them to basically program these tests to give you whatever outcome they want to? So as you'll see throughout this show, I'll keep hitting on this point. What COVID has allowed the Chinese government to do, the CCP, is to basically have full control over every citizen in its country with no rights. Now, we know that people don't have rights in China anyway, but they're literally coming in, taking you away, stealing your pets, stealing your children, putting you in concentration camps. Literally, this is what's happening in China right now, all under the guise of your safety. And this is a big warning for people around the world, because you have to understand that governments will take advantage of emergencies. And the whole idea of how governments become totalitarian and corrupt and take over the rights of citizens is they hide it under a benevolent, a solution to a problem. And a lot of times the problem they create. So, there's this virus. Well, we have to keep you safe. So you'll exchange a little bit of your freedoms for your safety, right? And it seems like a little bit here. It seems a little bit at first. It's okay, just wear a mask. Okay, just socially distance, just stay home for 2 weeks. And before you know it, you have China. So don't be mistaken. What we're seeing in China, this could be attempted to roll out around the world. So we have to be very clear with this. So as we see, Fauci's already talking about the next round of these things happening, the next round of lockdowns, et cetera. Philadelphia, I think it was just yesterday, implemented an indoor mask mandate. So let's just be clear. They're starting the gears up to get this going again, especially once they get through the midterm. So this is going to fall on each of us individually, whether we accept this, whether we choose to comply, even with the minor things that some people will say, well, just go ahead and do it. Just go ahead and wear your mask and make people feel better. It's your decision as to whether you will comply, because they, especially here in America, where we have a constitution, we have a Bill of Rights, they will only be able to carry this agenda out if we allow them to. But if we hold tight to our constitution and say, no, you draw a line in the sand, that's what it's going to take. So back to China. The financial hub of Shanghai continues to battle the worst outbreak it's seen, with over 10,000 positive cases since April 4th. The city's 26 million residents, I'm seeing 26 million, 28 million, there's different numbers, probably depending on how it's districted. But anyway, here it's saying the city's 26 million residents remain under lockdown in China's most populated city, and more stories of tragedy and violence are being reported, with authorities continuing to uphold the country's unbending zero COVID protocols. So here they're saying, so young children are taken away to quarantine alone. So according to reports by CBS News and the New York Times, one of the city's policies has seen parents being separated from their babies and young children if they test positive for COVID-19. China's strict virus protocols insist that any person testing positive for COVID-19, and again, whether or not that test is actually accurate, it doesn't matter because it's from the CCP, that they must be separated and quarantined from those who are not, which includes infants, toddlers, and young children. In efforts to keep track of every citizen's health status, everyone in China is required to have a mobile phone reflecting their COVID status. So, folks, if you hear people talking about, I talk about this a lot, the social credit system, the biometric security state, China, this is, if you want to look at the template for the New World Order, if you want to look at the template for what Klaus Schwab and the European bankers, what they want to do, what we're seeing happening in China is literally their plan. It is their plan. This is what they want to have happening and unfolding around the entire world. It's this, where you're required to have your phone with your pass. Everything's tied together. You have your social credit score tied into it. You get to show that you're green accepted if you get to go out. So as I'm reading this to you about what's happening in China, just think about it. This is where things are headed. If you have friends or family that are saying, oh, you're such a conspiracy theorist, like just get your passport, just get the jab. I know probably in the past couple of years, the past years, you said, look, this is where it leads. It leads to this. And they're saying, no, it doesn't. Show them China. Show them what is happening in China. Because, folks, these are the same people that want to bring this here. Okay, so again, as I back to the article, in efforts to keep track of every citizen's health status, everyone in China is required to have a mobile phone reflecting their COVID status. That right there, what's that? That is a digital vaccine passport. Same thing. So people with green health codes are allowed to travel freely. Those with yellow or red health codes are not allowed to visit public places such as supermarkets, hotels, restaurants, etc. The affected individual has to then report all close contacts to health authorities, undergo quarantine and several nucleic acid tests before they can be cleared and given a green status again. So you might literally wake up one day, open your phone, and it says you're now a red status. Because maybe they're going to say, well, when you were in the supermarket last night, you came into contact with somebody who had come into contact with somebody that was also red status. So that's how this works. Like you're literally being controlled by your phone, which is why I have a love-hate relationship with these things. It's like part of, I want to burn it. It's very useful, but I also want to just burn my phone and not use a phone and go back to like a landline or a pager, maybe page man in America. Unfortunately, Telegram doesn't work on pagers, so it's a tough one for me. So here they continue to say, though, those who test positive, even if they aren't showing any symptoms, are required, even if they aren't showing symptoms or require medical care, are taken away by pandemic staff to government-facilitated quarantine sites and told to remain there until they test negative. So this is not only the lockdowns that we were familiar with, where it's, okay, stay in your house for whatever, or like say in Australia, if I wanted to go visit my family over there, I might be forced to self-quarantine in a hotel room for 1 to 2 weeks. In China, how they're doing it now is that if your status turns red, like literally imagine this, imagine your phone buzzes at 1 a.m. and you open it up and it says your status is now red because of our contact tracing. 10 minutes later, someone knocks on your door. It's the police or it's people in hazmat suits, and they've come to take you away. And not only are they going to take you away, they might take your children away, and little, Ruffy the dog and Scratchy the cat, They take them, they throw them in a bag, and I won't talk about what happens next. I'll show some of that later, though. This is what's happening right now in China. So here, this is as I mentioned before, they are separating children from parents. So this is a sad video to watch. I'll just warn you. So what this is, in this video, kindergarten children can be seen forcefully taken away by the pandemic staff as they cry out for their parents. Again, this one's a little tough to watch, especially having a little 1.5-year-old myself. But again, we have to look at this stuff. So this is these pandemic staff taking away kids from their parents. Just watch this.
这么小的小孩真的太可怜了。小孩这么小的小孩啊，爸爸妈妈都不在的。太可怜了。这么小的小孩太可怜了。宝贝，太可怜了，太可怜了。这么小的小孩太可怜了。
Yeah. So there you go. What we're also seeing with this is we're seeing a lot of suicide that's happening. So we're seeing deaths. Again, Shanghai is 26, 28 million people. These people are locked up. They're being, as I'll show in a little bit, they're literally being locked into their apartments. Like, I've got video of this happening. They're locking people in their apartments. And so people are starving to death, and a lot of people are actually just killing themselves. So there's a lot of videos going around of people just jumping off of buildings. So I'm going to read through a little bit of this. I've got some videos to show you. I've been selective about what I want to show you, but we have to look at some of this. So, okay, here we go. So people in Shenzhen jump off buildings in protest of the prolonged lockdowns under China's zero COVID measures. So this is from a week and a half or so ago. Shenzhen, which is another one of the major cities. This is one that's right in southern China, right across the border from Hong Kong. I've actually been to Shenzhen many times. I used to spend a lot of time over in Hong Kong in the China region, and it's a dense, massive city. It's the size of New York City, basically. So coming to this, so China has imposed stay-at-home orders on millions of people in the country's northeast as it tries to tackle its largest outbreak of COVID-19 cases since the pandemic started 2 years ago in Wuhan. Okay, so they've imposed mass testing, lockdowns, travel restrictions. So Shenzhen has more than 20 million people. It's in southern China's Guangdong province, and it's widely regarded as the tech hub, which they do a lot of tech manufacturing there. You can also buy tons of fake things. That's where you go to buy fake everything. Fake handbags, watches. It's like, because they know people are coming from Hong Kong into Shenzhen, so they have these tour guides to take up into hotel rooms and secret rooms to buy fake stuff. So what they're showing here is that, here's the headline: woman jumps from building, others starve. So recently, lockdown residents in Shenzhen have posted videos on social media showing the dire situation they're in after weeks of being locked indoors with food supplies rapidly running out. So this is showing what's happening in Shenzhen. The same thing is also happening in Shanghai. So let me make this full screen for you. So I'm not gonna play this video. I'll just show you briefly. You can see this video. I'm not gonna go to the end because it shows the woman actually hitting the ground, but you can see this is a real video of a woman that just jumped off of what looks like maybe the 10th or 15th story of an apartment unit. So continuing on down here. So this I'll play because it's not like as graphic as the previous one, and I'll warn you. So I'm getting ready to play a video of a person jumping off a building. It doesn't show anything gory. You don't see the person hit the ground, but you have to be able to see this is what people are resorting to in China. This is what the government has driven them to. And I don't like showing this, but this is what's happening. And this is in Shanghai, where they've got massive skyscrapers. This is the level that people are getting to. So, but what's insane with this is that, look, we know that here in the United States, our media is fake media. It's propaganda. It's controlled. whether it's controlled by the DNC or Biden, the CCP, et cetera. But let's take a look at, so how do you think the media in China is covering what's happening? Well, let me show you. So here you go. This is, so here's a tweet from Mary Hui who says, while the chaotic Shanghai lockdown continues indefinitely, the top headlines across Chinese state media this morning, quote, Xi Jinping's love for the people, showcasing 20 stories of his infinite love for people and his determination to benefit the people. So again, look, I know our media is really soft on Biden, but it's not to this degree, right? Here we have people are literally starving to death, jumping off of buildings, rioting, et cetera. And the main websites are talking about how Xi Jinping's love for his people. This is communism, folks. This is communism. So what's very frightening, though, this next video I'm going to show you, this is, in my opinion, this is the most stirring video I may have ever seen in my life. It's not gory. It's not violent. It's soul stirring. So this is a video that someone took, and this has been authenticated, that this is a video someone took from their balcony in Shanghai. So what's happening now, because people are locked in their apartments, they're coming out on their balconies to scream and to yell and to protest against what's happening and to probably just connect with each other, because they're all locked in their apartments. So this video is what someone captured at nighttime of this playing out. So let me go and pull this up for you.
要命了！再这样弄下去，我讲真要出事体了，操，麻烦了。根治啥么呢？因为所有的人，伊都不晓得这个状态到底维持到啥个辰光。我总要拨个标准，或者是讲有一个具体的说法。没，侬讲看，闷了7天。当然屋里向啊，不能出门啊，不是说不能出小区啊，这不行的，马上弄下就要出事情。
So that's happening all night. I can't even imagine being in that situation. If you watch me, you know I'm telling you, get out of the cities, right? Here's like reason number one. If you can, of course, I know some of you can't. I've got, someone I was talking to on Telegram yesterday is in Brooklyn. You're growing your food. Amazing. But the cities are the most dangerous places to be when you've got a government that's become unhinged and is no longer looking out for the free will of the people or the health of the people. And so what they're saying is the guy who was talking was describing what they were talking about. And it's a lot of people that I forget the exact translation of it, but basically there's some sayings that they keep repeating that's talking about basically like we're ready for death at this point. Like that's where people are at. And so, but what's crazy is that how do you think that the Chinese Communist Party would respond to that? Obviously the Chinese Communist Party, if you speak out online, you're banned, you're censored, you get a real red thing that shows up on your phone and they'll take you away. So how do you think that they would handle everyone going out in their apartments and screaming and talking about freedom and everything? Well, don't worry, the CCP's got this one covered. So check this out. You can't even make this stuff up. So, okay, control your soul's desire for freedom. So authorities are using drones to keep desperate Shanghai residents confined to their homes. Again, you can't make this stuff up. Again, this is Vision Times. So videos uploaded to social media show a nighttime dim sounding throughout the residential communities of people across Shanghai, stuck in isolation with supplies dwindling, and they've taken to shouting and singing out of their windows for help and emotional release. So in a video that was posted to Weibo, which Weibo is the Chinese version of Twitter, a drone can be heard in the night broadcasting a public announcement to the city's residents. So that frightening scene I just showed you of all the screaming at night, the CCP is sending up drones to tell these people, literally, please comply. This is what they're saying. These drones are saying, please comply with COVID restrictions. Control your soul's desire for freedom. Do not open the window or sing. You have to see us to believe it. So look at this. So literally they're sending drones up into the sky to tell people to control their urge for freedom and do not open the window or sing. So there you go. This is communism, folks. For all the people that are here, especially the younger people in America that have been indoctrinated by the liberal teaching and really the communist and social teachings, this is what it leads to. This is what happens when you give a government absolute control. Even if you give it to good people, you might have a beautiful, benevolent leader stepping in that you want to give your control over to. The problem is eventually somebody else steps into that driver's seat, takes the wheel, and they can take you wherever they want to. So right here we're seeing, I've said before, communism is the enemy of mankind. I know the globalists are bad. They've got their great reset, but communism, this is Satan's religion. There's no other way to put it. So continuing here, so it's not just, this looks like this next video I'm going to show you literally looks like something out of a movie, right? So as I mentioned, that they're constantly monitoring and checking the health status of all the people in China. They're making you take these nucleic acid tests, if you have contact tracing, et cetera. But now that what they've done is they have SWAT police patrolling the streets with thermal imaging cameras to take your temperature, to look at you and see what your temperature is. So that way, if you show an elevated temperature, they arrest you and take you to a quarantine center. I'm not even kidding. You can't make this up. Look at this right here. Kind of an odd song to play, but maybe they're going for a certain effect. But for those of you that are listening on podcast, it's a video of these Chinese police dressed in all black with a helmet with black, very nefarious looking goggles on with these thermal cameras mounted to their helmets. And they are literally has little temperature things. So as they look at each individual person, it tells them what that person's body temperature is. Because if you're sick, they're going to take you away and put you in a containment camp. I mean, you can't even, it's just insane. So, but what they're also doing is, as I mentioned before, they're locking people in their apartments. They're locking down, even great big venues. There's a venue with 50,000 people in it, and someone tested for COVID there. So they locked the entire venue shut, right? So here's a video of, this is a bus that they've decided to lock up the bus. So watch it. This is a, this is, yes, it's a scene.
我们40-50个人，老的老，小的小，都看看你死干了呀，没吃没喝的呀，这个什么时候是个头呀？这再不行的话，我只能跳车了。我们死了的话，居委负责，司机负责。但是我们想回家呀，不想在这外面流浪呀，没吃没喝呀，一夜没睡了。
Yeah, so again, for those of you that are just listening and can't see the video, it's a bus with just caution tape wrapped all around it, and people are stuck in the bus. And my guess is they're probably locking them in the bus until they take them away to a containment center somewhere. And it's not just buses. So here's a video of someone being locked in their apartment. So what they do is, and I've even seen this with trucks before, truck drivers or cars, they put a seal over your door. So imagine it's a seal that they've written on, or there's a certain saying on there. So that seal, it's almost like if you buy a product and if you open it, the seal breaks. Well, that's the whole idea with this, is that they put a seal on your door. If you open your door, the seal breaks. So this is how they're locking people into their apartments. And if they come back, if your seal is broken, they're taking you away. So you either stay in your apartment like a good Chinese citizen and starve, And people are reporting having no food. Literally, people are starving to death in their apartments. Or you break your seal and then they come and get you and they take you away to a containment camp. So here's another video for you.
那我们的物资来了，就是说我们还是可以下去拿的。不可以下去。那怎么办呢？不知道，可能让我们送吧。哦，好。我们都不想这样，你觉得我们愿意送吗？我们加班干这种事情。我们已经很自觉了，尽量不出去。所以说，那你说这个领导这样够不够
？Yeah, so there they are. They're literally, I know you probably saw the videos of them welding the doors shut. So they're welding apartment doors shut. They're, say apartment buildings are welding the front doors shut. If they can't do that, they're going into the apartments individually. They're putting seals over the doors. The same thing is happening. It's just, this is what it is. And it's big. And as I'm going to continue showing you a few more videos of what's happening there, then I'm going to talk about, as I mentioned, some other breaking news that's come out of China this past week that's unfortunately very horrific. And then I've got a few fun things to talk about. But then we've got our Q&A and our community discussion over on Rise TV afterwards. And so for those of you that have just joined us, I'm just walking you through what's happening in China right now. Shanghai is on a extreme lockdown. 28 million people can't leave their homes. There's suicides, starving to death. Mass riots are starting to happen. And we're going to continue, as I mentioned. So after about the first hour, we jump over to Rise TV to do a community discussion, and we're going to ask you Q&A. So if you want to partake in that, there is a link in the description below. You can create an account on there as a free trial for Rise TV. And look, Rise TV is literally how I'm able to do this. It is my goal, though. It is my goal to make as much content as I can for free, put it on Rumble, YouTube, spread it everywhere. But for those of you that want to support, Rise TV is the way to do that, because the people that are supporting us through Rise TV are what allow us to fight this battle of information on the front lines like this. Because I can tell you, I'm not making any money from YouTube. Honestly, if I wanted money, I'd become a liberal channel. With the same amount of followers I have on YouTube, I could probably be making $30,000 or $40,000 a month. I'm not kidding. Right now, I make zero, a big fat zero over on YouTube. So again, if you want to support Rise TV. So jumping back into the story. So we've also got right here, I mentioned they have riots. So people are literally, they're getting to a point where they're so hungry and they're starving that they're rioting. And this is just the beginning of this. I think that we're going to see large scale riots unfolding, especially in cities like Shanghai. There's also a lot of footage of the CCP bringing troops into Shanghai. There's thousands and thousands of troops, foot soldiers marching into the streets of Shanghai, I think in anticipation of really things erupting. So let me go and show this video to you. This is these are doctors and workers trying to contain these people as they get through, because they're trying to break through these lines to go get food because they're starving. Yeah, so there you go. So the riots are already starting. Now I see someone actually commenting over on Rise TV saying, we have some fun stuff here. So we're gonna take a little 1 minute break from the really heavy things. I actually have something really funny to show you. So because I'm gonna work on trying to lighten the mood, especially with some of this heavier content like this. We have to have something to laugh at. So we're gonna take a quick pause on the China totalitarian Mad Max scenario that's unfolding and watch something. So this is absolutely hilarious. So Saudi Arabia on their one of their main television networks did a skit mocking Biden and Kamala Harris. Now, of course, if you saw, think about SNL the entire time Trump was running or Trump was in as our president, nonstop, the only thing they did was mock President Trump. But we've seen almost none of that about President Biden. So the fact that another country, Saudi Arabia, is doing their own funny skit, let me just show you this. I was going to show it to you at the end, but I think that we could use this right now. So just watch this, and this is good. I hope you're ready for a good laugh. Oh goodness! You see, there's still fun things that we can laugh at there. I just found it to be so funny. Even though the guy looks nothing like Biden, she's strange. He looks a lot like Kamala Harris, but I just thought that was really funny. So I thought it's good to inject a little bit of humor into these shows, and a little bit of humor and hope sometimes because oh goodness. So all right, so now that we're on to the back to China and the whole Mad Max scenario and Germany 2.0 happening, I've got an article that I'm going to read you from here, because this is when I talk about what's happening with these containment centers and where they're taking people. This is the thing that really, really, really concerns me. I'm not joking. We're looking at Auschwitz 2.0 here, and it seems like crazy. Every time you bring up the Holocaust, there's, all these memories. We've been, Hollywood has pumped the Holocaust thing, maximally, though they've ignored things like the Holodomor, and they've ignored, China. Like, where's all the Hollywood movies about the Great Famine or the Great Leap Forward, or, the murdering of people during the, Cultural Revolution in China? Oh, nowhere. I wonder if China actually owns Hollywood. Maybe that's why, right? But what we're seeing unfold there is, let me show you. Okay, so here's an article from Bloomberg. Shanghai races to build hundreds of thousands of isolation beds. Gyms, stadiums, convention centers are being converted into isolation facilities that are key to China's COVID-0 strategy. So let me continue here. So Shanghai is transforming conference centers and conscripting neighboring provinces to create isolation facilities for hundreds of thousands of people, a sign of its commitment to a zero-tolerance approach to COVID-19 amid China's worst outbreak to date. Now, Bloomberg probably has, actually, I think I've researched Bloomberg in the past. I'm not going to talk. They probably have extensive ties with China. So you can see how the hand they're taking is very polite here about China's issue. It's a sign of China's commitment to zero-tolerance approach for COVID-19. So the Chinese financial hub is adding tens of thousands of beds to what are already some of the world's largest isolation sites, as it sticks to a policy of quarantining all those positive for the virus, regardless of severity, plus everyone they interacted with while infected. So that's a key. They're quarantining people that are sick, regardless of their severity, but they're also quarantining people that interacted with that person. This just gives the government it's open season, folks. This allows the government to come in and just take you at will. And these are the same kinds, if you remember back in New York State, they were working on passing these same laws that basically say that if you have COVID, or if someone you interact with while you have COVID, they can come in and take you away and put you into a facility. Like, folks, please pay attention to this. Fauci is already talking about round 2 of this. He's already talking about it. Okay. This is what they're going to try to bring here. Like what we saw the first round. I'm not trying to be a fear monger, but I'm trying to be realistic with you. If I hope I'm wrong, I genuinely hope that I'm wrong. But if I'm not telling you what I think is the honest truth, I'm doing a disservice to you. So like my mother, if my mother's watching, I've been talking to her, say, Mom, please move out to the country with me. Get out of the big city. Please move out to the country with me. And that's the thing, is if you can, right, there's a closing window. I'm not kidding. If you can make a move, or say, you're stuck where you are and you have an opportunity to prep right now, the window is closing, right? So if you can sell your house and get out of the big city and find a plot of land, rurally, even if you're living in a trailer on an acre in the country, you are going to be way better off. Look at Shanghai. Okay. This is coming for the big cities. It's coming. So anyway, so this is showing, look at this picture right here. That right there is the one of their isolation units. That's in the Shanghai International Expo Center. That picture right there. Whoops, looks like I've limited my interrupted access. So anyways, they've got more pictures there of these containment camps. So I've got a video to show you. This is the inside of one of these containment camps. So just check this out. And it's a little bit hard to watch because you're seeing this woman is clearly upset. She's been locked into there. But this is just step one. This is step one of their isolation centers. All right, so go ahead and let's go and watch this video. So that's one of the indoor containment centers. I mean, who knows why this woman's crying? Maybe she, maybe her sick father is at home without her, or her children, no one's there to pick them up from the daycare. I mean, they're literally just taking people away and hauling them off. But the next video I'm going to show you, this is, okay, we had the video of the screaming at night. That's frightening. But this video I'm going to show you now, there's nothing gory. It's not, bad. This is the most frightening video I think aside from the other one of the most frightening videos I've seen in my life. And I'm not kidding. So just look at this. I'm going to play it a few times, but just think about the implications of this. What I'm going to show you, this is one of the containment center camps they're building for the people of Shanghai. This is where they're going to take people for isolation. Watch.
不得不佩服南部08日月了，防超雨呢，哈，牛逼 plus 牛波的。不得不佩服南部08日月了，防超雨呢，哈，牛逼 plus 牛波的。
Yeah, so look one more time, folks. Look at this. For those of you that are just listening, as far as the eye can see, they've got these containment centers, these little pods. They look like shipping containers with bars on them. And this is just one of the areas where they're building these for China. And this is one of my great concerns about what's happening there is that they're literally now they're moving people into these concentration camps. That's what they are. They're concentration camps. This is everything that you saw play out in Germany, the building of the camps, the Jews getting into the trains and going off with the hope of something better and being put into camps. This is literally what they are doing. Like, folks, China is literally creating a Holocaust 2.0 right in front of us. Where does this lead? What's the purpose? And that's the question I keep asking myself. What's the purpose? Which after I go through a few more videos, I'm going to get to this, but like, why would they be doing this? Is it because they want to contain COVID? Or is it because they want to start exterminating for some of their citizens? Because how do you know that they're not tying these red, contact tracing scores to people's social credit scores? So that way, anybody who speaks out against the government, say you're on a blog and you're criticizing the CCP, or say you're actually talking to a friend in private and you're criticizing the CCP, the next day you've got a little red button. This unfold in China right now. So, but here's a question. How much are you seeing Biden talk about this? How much are you seeing the mainstream media talk about the severity of what's happening there? Yeah, you see Tucker, he's covering it a little bit. But Rupert Murdoch recently took, I think it was around $100 million loan from the CCP. So you think Fox is going to cover, show you the real truth that's happening in China? How many media have told you about the persecution of Falun Gong or the underground Christians or the organ harvesting, which we're going to get into in a little bit here? Right, folks? So while all eyes are on Ukraine, while all the media is focused on the humanitarian disaster of Ukraine, you can make sure you put your yellow and blue flag on your Facebook profile, folks. You got to say, I stand with Ukraine. Look what's happening in China. The greatest humanitarian, the greatest human rights disaster potentially that we may ever see is unfolding right now in China. Now, I'm going to pull up this tweet from Jack Sobiek, who says, if you test positive for COVID in Shanghai, they're taking you to a quarantine center and killing your pets. And this is absolutely true. So not only are they taking people away, then they're taking their pets. And unfortunately, there's a lot of videos of what they're doing to pets that I couldn't show. And unfortunately, I didn't want to show because they're just, they're too difficult, but I'm going to show you a video of how they're doing this. I'm not going to show you a video of dead animals or them beating animals, but I'm going to show you a video that if you're a dog person or a cat person, this might be a difficult video to watch, but this is how they're rounding up the animals. So disclaimer, you may want to look away or mute the audio. It's not, there's no murdering of animals happening, but there's just sad animals. So I'm going to show you this. So this right here, this is what's happening to the pets that they are taking away. This is a bag of cats on the sidewalk. All right, folks. So I'm seeing a few comments of people that the video has cut, but let me go and just do a quick check. Let me look into this. Folks, let me know if in the comments, if you're still getting the video feed, because there's a handful of people that are saying that they're not getting the video feed. So let me know. Okay. Okay, it looks like I'm back now. So let me know, because again, these things skip. And as you can see, I'm not really a friend of the CCP. And with all the control they have and all the control they have over big tech, you just never know these days. So anyway, I know something that might have cut out. I'm going to show you that video one more time for folks. So this is what they're doing. This is what they're doing to the animals in China. So let me go and play this one more time for you. So this is what's happening in China. They're taking people away. They're taking their pets. They're taking who knows where those animals are going. They're probably going to, I mean, honestly, there's a good chance they're going to eat them. Like they do this over there. So they have annual dog festivals where they eat all the dogs they can find roaming around. But this is what's happening. Now, I've mentioned some breaking news that had come out over this past week that I want to share with you about something that's going on in China. So there's a new report that has come out. Now, this is a report from, I think it's one of the major institutions. I'll get to the details about that. That's showing that Chinese doctors used organ harvesting as a method of execution. So again, folks, this is also a reality. This is communism. Okay, this is communism right here. So let me go and read this to you. So it says, Chinese transplants violated the dead donor rule according to 71 papers published from 1980 to 2015. So this is a new report that just came out, which basically has proved that the Chinese Communist Party is using organ transplantation as a method of murdering people. It's as a method of execution. So for years, the Chinese authorities have boasted of the army's growing organ transplant industry, which Beijing says will overtake that of the United States in the near future. However, government claims that all these organs are sourced from willing donors have faced skepticism for years, as human rights organizations assert the majority come from innocent people murdered by the communist regime. So a new study released on April 4th by the American Journal of Transplantation. So this is coming out from the American Journal of Transplantation. Okay, so this is a serious institution, a published medical journal, sheds further light on the allegations, which if true would mean potentially hundreds of thousands of people in China have been murdered by surgeons in Chinese hospitals. So according to the report titled Execution by Organ Procurement, Breaching the Dead Donor Rule in China, much of the publicly available data from China suggests that many donors were not brain dead when their organs were harvested. They say, quote, in these cases, the removal of the heart during an organ procurement must have been the proximate cause of the donor's death, which the authors write in these studies abstract. They say, quote, this strongly suggests that physicians in the People's Republic of China have participated in execution by organ removal. So what they're saying here is that there's no confirmation of brain death before surgery. So here's the other thing, actually, and I just made this connection. All these people they're taking away and putting into these containment camps, honestly, I think there's probably a good portion of them that will end up being organ donors, involuntary organ donors. Look, I know that now a lot more people are aware of global human trafficking, the global sex trade, child sex trade, et cetera. But one of the most profitable businesses to be in, if you absolutely have no morals, and maybe if you have Satan that's sitting on your shoulder or attached to your back or whatever, is the sale of organs, the organ trade. And China, as I'll talk about here, has made a massive amount of money selling the organs of people internationally. So how it works, so say that in the United States, you need a liver. It might take you 6 years to find a liver. You can call up a hospital in China and say, I need a liver, here's my blood type, et cetera. They might say, okay, it'll take us 6 days. And I'm not kidding. I've studied this extensively over my years, especially when I was working at the media, we cover this a lot. You can literally call, they've got recordings, I've listened to the recordings, people are calling up, say, a Chinese hospital and saying, hey, can I have a liver from a Falun Gong practitioner because they don't drink alcohol? And I want that liver because it's healthy. And they say, yep, we've got one here for you. We have a healthy one here for you. And so they're basically, it's like they're ordered and they're killed on demand for this. So reports that organ harvesting was being used by the communist authorities in China as a means of killing first surfaced in 2006. The allegations focused on the millions of Falun Gong practitioners, a community whose faith was banned by the Chinese Communist Party in 1999 as the likely victims of the crime. Initial work by activists David Matus and David Kilgore established how mass murder of prisoners for their organs could be taking place in the People's Republic of China. So the two Davids and the others noted that the Chinese transplant industry had taken off only following the mass arrest and detention of Falun Gong adherents, a pool of people numbering in the tens of millions. In 2019, an independent court in the UK, the China Tribunal, judged that unwilling Falun Gong practitioners were beyond a reasonable doubt the principal source of China's organ transplants. And actually, I interviewed one of my earlier videos, it's still up on YouTube. I interviewed a doctor that defected from China. He was a surgeon, and he was forced to perform a live organ harvest on a prisoner that was supposedly executed but was intentionally shot in a way that it wouldn't kill them. And he later, it bothered him so much he defected, and now he's like an Uber driver in the UK. So if you, that's early, that's way early. I think the thumbnail says body shop. That's really early on in my YouTube kind of career. That was one of the first videos I did, but it's a really important interview. So continuing to this report, so where does China get its organs? So due to a cultural emphasis on burying or cremating the dead with their bodies whole, Chinese are reluctant to sign up as voluntary donors for organ transplants. And China's first organ donation system was only introduced in 2015. So after the allegations of organ harvesting from Falun Gong practitioners emerged, Beijing admitted to the practice but claimed that only death row prisoners were subject to have their organs removed. The CCP treats Falun Gong as a third rail issue, referring to it as an evil cult, which is how they get the people to turn against it. State propaganda has ostracized and dehumanized adherents of the traditional faith in nearly 23 years since the beginning of the anti-Falun Gong campaign. Much of the existing research into organ harvesting implicates high-ranking officials in the CCP, including figures such as the former head of China's police and courts, Zhou Yongkong, and former Politburo member Bo Xilai. So, folks, if you remember, and we're going to talk about this in a second in the article, but do you remember when there was the bodies exhibits? This was back in 2005, 2006, 7, 8, 9, 10, where they had these bodies exhibits, where they had these plastinated bodies. Well, if you go and you look at those, actually, let me just pull this up. Let me show you something really here. So I'm pulling up a web page here to show you some images, but let me ask you, when you look at these images, right, as you can see right here, you remember these exhibits? Tell me, what race is that guy right there? What race is that person right there? What race are these people? Right? Because when you start to look at them, and this is creepy, you start to realize They're all Chinese. Right there. What race is that person? Chinese. So back to the article I'm reading you. So Zhou Yongkong was the head of the 610 office. So the 610 office was basically the equivalent of the Gestapo. It was a CCP organization tasked with coordinating and overseeing the persecution of Falun Gong. While Bo's leadership roles in Northeast China saw him and his wife, Gu Kailai, come into close association with questionable practices such as a plastination factory in Dalian that processed human cadavers provided by the police for display in the body world's exhibits. The bodies, which include that of a heavily pregnant woman, are of unknown origin but are suspected of being sourced from murdered Falun Gong practitioners. So again, so this is significant, though, because here we have an American Journal of Medicine that is coming out openly saying this is happening in China, right? This is openly happening over there. So I know this was a tough episode. There's a lot of heavy information to get through here. Of course, I showed my funny Biden video in the middle of the show, so hopefully that was a little bit of relief, a little bit of comic relief from this. But this is serious, folks. And while, look, if you watch, I've covered a lot. I talk a lot about Klaus Schwab and Davos, and I talk a lot about, the globalists and central bankers, but we cannot lose sight of the Chinese Communist Party. We cannot take our focus off of them, because looking at the origins of COVID, even back to Wuhan, looking at the origins of the lockdowns, I interviewed Michael Sanger, an author who wrote a book specifically about how basically from the desk of Xi Jinping through the World Health Organization, the globalist organizations, China was able to lock down the entire world. The whole lockdown model came from China. Now, there's people that are asking and they're saying, look, Wuhan was a psyop, which I believe that. I believe a lot of what you saw happen in Wuhan was actually just to confuse people. It was to make people frightened. So that way, once all the propaganda came in, the whole world is locked down instantly, right? That was, I believe that was the intention. It was part of, if you study China's, their military reports and their, books and some of the speeches from their defense ministers, it's very clear that is their method of war, right? It's very clear. It's just like Trump talked about. When COVID-19 came out, it was an act of war. We are in World War III. As much as everyone's saying, oh, now Russia could be World War III. No, World War III started when China released this, right? And I know that ties back into some of the people in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, we have Fauci, et cetera, which are obviously, these are people that are within our government that have turned bad, which bad is almost it's an easy word for them. Consider what these people have done to the world, but this is what's happening. So China is behind so much of what's happening. And I'm not going to get into the detail of China versus the cabal and George Soros versus Xi Jinping and what's happening, but China has played a significant role in the pushing forward of the Great Reset. Now, I believe they have their own agenda. They want to walk people into their own dystopian communist future, but they have had a very heavy hand. It's not to mention almost the entire global 5G network, which is what would be used. So that's the thing, is that China has a massive 5G network, and their network of smart Internet of Things, cameras, everything is so extensive in China. It's insane. I forget how many cameras they have. It's approaching 1 billion cameras. I think last I checked, it was over 500 million cameras they have. They're just monitoring their people. So for the globalists to succeed, they need China's 5G network. They need that network to be able to have their monitoring, the social credit system. They need to have that for their technocracy to work so they can monitor us. So, but China is what's happening there. And this is the question. Is people are saying, look, is this another psyop? I genuinely don't believe it is. I believe that what we're seeing coming out of Shanghai, and I've looked at this extensively. I've looked into the videos that through Chinese articles, through Chinese social media. The videos that I showed you, these are real videos, right? So yeah, in China, in Wuhan before, you had a single video of a person falling over and dying in the street that went viral. You didn't have videos like this coming from Wuhan of masses of people like this. That was not coming out of Wuhan. So I believe that what's happening is something much more serious. And what I think is that there is a more serious variant that's actually a real variant. I don't think it's some sort of fake thing they're using to frighten us and get us racing to get our 13th booster. Something is happening in China, something very serious. And while Xi Jinping talks about this, people have been reading about, they're analyzing, why is Xi Jinping doing this to his citizens? Because he's destroying their economy. China was bragging about how it got over, fixed things in Wuhan, and they got their economy going. And while everyone else's economies around the world were tanking, China was actually doing really well. People, they were bragging about that. That's not happening to us. Shanghai is their financial hub. So Shanghai is like their New York City. So what I think is happening is that the CCP, they know they're on their last leg. And as much as they're atheists, actually they fear God. And I've gotten a lot of information coming from the very top levels of the government through different contacts I have that have, whether it's through the media or other contacts I made while in New York City, that have revealed how the inner workings of these, the top level CCP officials are. And it's almost as if they know that there is a divine retribution coming for them. During the SARS pandemic, that was back when you had the leader Jiang Zemin. He actually barricaded himself in Shanghai. He was so scared of that virus that if anybody was, any people that reported cases got fired immediately. He was so frightened of that virus that he literally buried himself to try to protect himself and insulate himself from the virus. So these officials, they know that something is happening. And what I suspect is the reason why there's two reasons I think why they've become so extreme with COVID-0. One is that Xi Jinping is trying to preserve his legacy because he touted his ability to control COVID as one of his legacies. It was how he really bolstered that internationally and within China. And so he's the person behind this whole COVID-0. And so if he now takes off that restriction, and if he says, well, we've kind of lost a little bit, or it's a little bit too extreme, he's backing down from his legacy. So he's not going to do that. The Chinese are very prideful, especially those in power, extremely prideful. It's to a very bad place. So that's one thing, that's why I think that they're doing this, because it's kind of like they've gone too far. They've gone too far with this, and he can't turn back anymore. Because to turn back from these COVID-0 policies admits that he was wrong in his handling of COVID. And in a lot of ways, it'd be admitting defeat. So that's why they're freaking out. But beyond that, I really believe that something else is spreading in China. That something, whether it's a hemorrhagic fever or something in the top levels of the CCP, they know that something is coming for them. And they know that their country is on the verge of collapsing because of it, and they're freaking out. So that's why I think that we're seeing this. So, all right, folks, I saved my fun stuff I gave it to you during the middle of the show. So we are now going to head over to Rise TV to have it's kind of a Q&A. You can ask me really anything. You can ask me about China, the CCP, devolution, the jab, Dr. Artis, anything you want to ask me, we're going to get into that. I love the Q&A. Just, actually on this coming Thursday, so in 2 days, I'll be interviewing Dr. Artis, doing an 1.5 hour long interview with a Q&A as part of the end session of it. With Dr. Artis, we're going to be talking about his new documentary about the water that just got released with Stu Peters. So if you're, mark your calendars. If you have questions for Dr. Artis, that's coming up this Thursday at 2:00 Eastern PM. So make sure you're there. The main part of the interview will be available on Rumble. I don't think I'll be putting it onto YouTube and probably not Facebook, just because they're just looking for reasons to ban me. I'm already walking on very thin ice with them. So just make sure you're there for that. And again, for Dr. Artis, afterwards, we're going to have the Q&A for Rise TV folks. So if you want to come join now, and your account will still be active under a free trial, so you can also participate in the interview with Dr. Artis and do a Q&A. Any questions you want to ask, he's a fantastic guest to have on. He loves talking to you and answering your questions. If you want to partake in that, there is a link in the description below for a free trial to Rise TV. If you want to support what we're doing, this is the best way. And look, I know that, with gas prices hitting, who knows, $20-30 a gallon for all we know under Biden, a lot of you are, kind of tight financially. I understand. If you want to help out, just share the video. And just by being here watching and helping spread this information, you're helping a lot. And so I really, really appreciate you. And that's why I'm dedicated to doing the majority of my content for free on all the public platforms. I really want you to be able to have access to this information because now more than ever, this is critical life-saving information. I really believe it is. So thank you for all of you that have come and watched this. So we're now going to be heading over to Rise TV. Again, there's that description, the link in the description below. So if you have Q&A, you have your questions, ask them over there. So Dom, you can go ahead and cut the public feeds. And let me go ahead and pull up the questions I have for some of you over here on the Rise TV. So to all my Rise folks, thank you. Thank you so much for being part of Rise TV. And as usual, if you have a question, make sure you just, let me see, sorry folks, I get this pulled up. If you have a question, just write question in your comment, drop it in there. Dom is going to collect it for you. Let me just go and pull up my question document for some reason.